1, 2, 1, 2, here we go. Welcome to the Catalyst Podcast, raw, real, and unedited. My name is Jason, and you can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear the podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, and Amazon. A catalyst has the power to create change, and we hope that's what this podcast will do. If you're interested in becoming a guest or a contributor, of course, you can always email us at catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. Welcome to episode 40. Episode 40 of the Catalyst Podcast. Wow. So, I think we've talked about the origins of Catalyst. How I want to do a podcast for so long, even before the cancer came in 2019, and it took me 4 years to actually release the first podcast, and that happened after my mom passed. It took the loss of my mother to kind of put this out. So it's interesting and exciting that here we are, and we're now on episode 40, and we're just going to keep on keeping on. I thank all of you people who are listening, the one or two of you. Some of you are getting some information out of it, beneficial. Some of you are using it for nefarious reasons and means. It is what it is. It's a way for me to express myself. It's a way for me to share my ideas. It's a way for me to share my story, and I'm going to continue to do it. So we're here at 40. I look forward to getting to 50. And let's talk about today's topic, which is called task paralysis. Another one of these interesting buzzwords that's going around today. So let's talk about it. All right. For those of you who haven't battled this beast, let me explain what it is. All right. Task paralysis is that feeling you get when you stare down a to-do list that's like a mile long and nothing happens. Right? You're stuck in the analysis mode, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of the task, and before you know it, the day evaporates without anything getting ticked off. Sounds familiar? I know it sounds familiar to me. I just gave you the intro to my task paralysis, creating Catalyst, creating the podcast, doing the blogs, and doing the reels and the questions of the day and quotes of the day, all that stuff. Deeply suffered from task paralysis. So let's talk about it, right? So think about this. How many times have you muttered, I should really get started on that project, only to end up scrolling through cat videos or talking dog videos for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, right? We've all been there, right? But here's the thing. Task paralysis is a productivity killer, and it's time that we slay the dragon. Okay? Right? You know the feeling, right? You got this amazing goal, this project's churning in your head, but when it comes to actually doing something, you don't do it. Hey, Catalyst right here. That's what it was all about, right? You're stuck in analysis land. You're overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the task. It's like staring at Mount Everest and wondering when you're ever going to begin to climb, right? So here it is. It's like task paralysis. It's not laziness. It's your brain freaking out a little bit, right? Author Elizabeth Gilbert perfectly captured it when she said, the only reason we do hard things is because we would believe they will lead to something better. But when that something better feels miles away, it can start to feel impossible. So, let me tell you a little story. I remember a time when I decided to finally clean up my closet. All right, having a completely organized closet where everything was color coordinated and all that kind of stuff, right? But as I stared at all the boxes and the clothes and the hangers and all that kind of stuff, my brain just said nope. And I spent 2 hours scrolling through TikTok. Right? We've all been there. Right? So, let me ask you this. Why does a simple to-do list turn into something, or turn into like a staring contest with, the K2 or the K12 or, Mount Everest, something like that? Right? The longer you ignore it, the longer you ignore that task, the longer you try to avoid it or replace it with something, the worse your anxiety gets. It becomes this big giant monster. And some people will either dull it with drugs and alcohol or doing something completely random, right? But the good news is that task paralysis doesn't have to win all the time. We can overcome this. Sometimes it takes something very, very dramatic, as in my case, with my mom passing or the cancer. But sometimes we can take a much, much easier path. So let's break that down, all right? First, let's do this. That overwhelming to-do list, all right? Let's do this. Grab a pen and a paper or your note-taking app, whatever it is. Because let's be honest, sometimes writing things down feels more satisfying. All right? At least for me. I feel writing something down instead of typing something out helps with part of the process. All right? What we want to do is we want to break down the project into bite-sized tiny chunks. Tiny, doable, achievable tasks that won't make you want to crawl under a cover, right? So I got this quote here by Tim Ferriss. A small step in the right direction is still a step forward. Exactly. It is. A small step in the right direction is still a step forward. Celebrate the small wins. Each task you complete, no matter how seemingly insignificant it is, it's a victory. Like when you watch these weight loss shows and they lose like a half pound, but it was a really tough week. A victory is a victory is a victory. Take it. All right? Focus on the progress, not perfection, right? Ditch the perfectionist mindset. Done is better than perfect, my friends. Don't get bogged down in making each step flawless. Just focus on making progress. A step forward, whether it's a big one or a small one, is still a step forward. Right? Remember, imperfect but effective. All right? Remember that time you were rushing to get to work and you might have accidentally worn mismatched socks or maybe mismatched shoes, 2 different colors? Did anyone really notice? Probably not. And did it affect your ability to do your job? Most likely not. The point is, sometimes good enough is good enough. Now, there's a lot of people who would say no, but again, when we're trying to move away from something that's been holding us back, sometimes It's about the small increments. The small increments make it easy, or make it more doable, and gives you a chance to get a couple of victories under your belt, right? How about scheduling mini sprints? All right? Schedule mini sprints of focused work. So let's do this. Set a timer for 25 minutes. Put your phone on silent and attack that single small task. When the timer goes off, take a quick break, reward yourself, and then dive back in for another round. Right? Finally, just start. Right? Sometimes the hardest part is taking that first step. Right now I got a training class and they're about to go onto the phones, and one of the biggest challenges is we prepare these people with the systems, we do role plays, we have them shadow, we have them listen to calls, but the biggest challenge of all is getting their heads right to take that first call. You would swear that some of these people will spontaneously combust if they took that call. But it's amazing, no matter what, I always say at the end, when you're done with the call, the first thing you're going to say is, that wasn't as hard as I made it out to be. All right? Sometimes the hardest part is taking that first step. Momentum is your friend. Once you get going, it's going to be easier to keep moving forward. So take the plunge. You're not, it's not going to be as bad as you think it is. There's this great video about Will Smith jumping in an airplane, talks about fear and talking about taking that first step. It's one, I just love it. So just starting is so key. All right, so let's recap here. Task paralysis is a common enemy, but it's not invincible. Right? Break it down into your tasks, ditch perfectionism, schedule focus work sessions, and most importantly, just start. All right? So, before we go, here is your action item for the day. All right? Grab a piece of paper. All right? Write down one task that's been paralyzing you. And then what I want you to do is I want you to break it down into 3 tiny steps. That's it. 3 mini victories that are waiting for you if you take that actionable step. And that's what it's all about, taking action. All right? Remember, progress over perfection. You got this. So go be great. And with that being said, I want to thank you for listening to the Catalyst Podcast. Raw, real, and unedited. My name is Jason. And you can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear the podcast created through Spreaker on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, iHeart, and Amazon. A Catalyst has the power to create change, and we hope that's what this podcast will do. If you would like to be a part of this podcast as a guest or a contributor, you can email us at catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. So let's take that actionable action and make it happen and go be great. Thank you so much for listening to episode 40. We'll see you on episode 41. Go be great.